Okay.
And look at that.
What's better than a spreadsheet? Nothing. So we're going to be looking at the macros in a spreadsheet. And what's really great is it's actually just a button click and it does it automatically for you. And I think it will be very unscary. So what it does, a macro just automates tasks. It automates tasks in your Google Sheets spreadsheet. So anytime you're like doing the same, like making the columns wider, filling in it with a highlighting a row using the paint can, whatever, and you do it a second time and you're going to do it a third time, that's what macros are great for. So where we're going to start is we're going to do sheets.new. We're going to create a new spreadsheet. So if you could make a spreadsheet, please. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi and it works sometimes. I don't know what it is. Come on. All right. So I'm going to make a sample spreadsheet. So what I would like you to do is to please go to the Tools menu and go to Macros and choose Record Macro. So this is the basics of it. What the macro is going to do is going to record your steps. So I'd like you to do a few simple steps. You don't have to do exactly what I do, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Tools, Macros, and I'm going to record the macro. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make column B wider. I'm going to take this chunk of cells and I'm going to merge them. And I'm going to fill it with a paint can. And I'm going to make this row hot pink. And then I'm going to type in this cell. And I want to center it, word wrap it, make it bigger, and change the font. So you don't have to do what I just did, but you'll see I just did a bunch of things. I made a column wider. I merged some cells. I used the fill tool twice, and I changed some font. So what are some things that you might do in a spreadsheet, and you want to do that while you're using the Tools menu and Macros? And it's just a recording the macro. So when I'm working on a Go Slow workshop for macros. So what I do is I'm like starting the macro, I'm screenshotting, and then I'm doing the tutorial at the same time. So sometimes I have very large gaps of time between I do something in the spreadsheet, I'm working on the tutorial, and then you do something else in the spreadsheet while the macro is still running. And it's fine. You don't need to feel rushed. It makes you feel rushed because it's got this red light that's blinking like, come on, do something. But you actually can go slow. It's just when you do something, it records your step. So you're making a spreadsheet. You went to sheets.new. You created a spreadsheet, and you're doing anything while recording it with a macro. And when you're done, you click Save. Name mine delete because I don't really want to save it. Now, if you want at this time when you click Save, you can give it a keyboard shortcut. So if it's an action that you perform often. So for example, I have a Google form that people fill out that when they fill it out, it's a big chunk of text. And every time I open up the spreadsheet, I have to set Wordwrap on the column. So I've just recorded a macro to set Wordwrap on the column just so it's faster to run the macro, and it just sets the Wordwrap for me automatically. And I'm going to click Save. And you'll notice it pops up here in the bottom corner where it lets you edit the script. So a secret here is that recording a macro is really like coding. So you can see that it's actually Google Apps script in the background. Don't look at that. Now, if you sign up for the drip subscription on macros, which first starts out simple, just going through using a macro in a spreadsheet, and then builds up to be more and more challenging and getting into the recording, the scripting aspect of it. You can do that later. I don't plan on doing that right now unless you want me to. So, questions. Do we have a spreadsheet? And you record it. You got your macro. So I'd like you to do is in the bottom left corner, add a sheet. And then you're just going to go to Tools, Macros. And you can see that the macro that you just made is down here at the bottom. I named mine Delete. So when I click the Delete macro, now it comes up with the authorization that, because remember it's Google Apps Script. So when you run it the first time, you'll have to authorize the code. And you remember it's your code, you recorded it. Technically you wrote it if you want to think about it that way. And so it should do all of those things on there. Add on tools, macros, run the macro, add a new sheet, tools, macros, choose the macro. It's going to do it. So this just saves you a lot of time if you ever find that you're doing the same thing over and over again. So I'd like you to add a new sheet. I want you to add a new sheet. And we're just going to make a few columns. We're just going to say name and favorite number, something like this. It doesn't really matter. What I want you to think about is having a spreadsheet that has some sort of repeating information. So maybe I have kids checking out to the bathroom. So Alice goes to the bathroom, Alice goes to the bathroom, Alice goes to the bathroom, Nancy goes to the bathroom, Paul goes to the bathroom, Mary goes to the bathroom, Kim goes to the bathroom, Sherry goes to the bathroom, Alice goes to the bathroom, Nancy goes to the bathroom, and Sherry goes to the bathroom. So what you're going to do is just create a bunch of names and have some repeats. I'm going to create some names and have some repeats. And the only reason I included this favorite number is just so I had some data to go with it. I want to spend a lot of time making fake data. If you don't already have under the add-ons menu 2 tabs, can you go to Get Add-ons? Go to Get Add-ons. And you're going to search for 2 tabs. I made this myself. It's very exciting. You could install 2 tabs unless you already have it. Okay, now once you have the 2 tabs, we're going to run 2 tabs on this spreadsheet. I'm going to show the sidebar. Now it's really important that when you do 2 tabs that you have column headers. So you see here in the sidebar, I have a little drop down that says select a column. So what we're going to do, I'm going to sort by the name. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tab for each unique name. And I'm going to sort and filter out the name and favorite number. So I'm going to hit submit. And you'll see I have an Alice tab, and these are all the times Alice went to the bathroom. And here's a Nancy tab, and she went to the bathroom twice. And here's a Paul tab. He went to the bathroom once. Mary went to the bathroom once, Kim went to the bathroom once, and Sherry went twice. So the 2 tabs you'll see took that information and sorted it out so I can see each of the unique options, which is very helpful. But then you'll notice that when I use 2 tabs, it has no formatting. And you never have formatting It's always just this. So if you want to have formatting, you got to go in and do it yourself. So I'm going to look at this first one where I have Alice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the tools menu. I'm going to go to macros. I'm going to record macro. I'm going to click on the A column, and I want to make, I like this special elite font, and then make my font size larger. I'm going to click on the B column. I'm going to choose to center and center. I'm going to make my font bigger. And then I see, notice here's this fave number. Doesn't really fit very well in there. So I'm going to turn on Wordwrap. I'm going to change the font so it's more like a blocky font. And I want to make it hot pink. So that was several steps that I did to format this sheet the way that I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. I'm going to call it D2. Save it anything you want. And then I go to this next tab, which had the two tabs had filtered and sorted all of my into the bathroom, and I just need to go up to the tools menu and I go to macros, and this time I use the D2 macro, and you notice it automatically makes it look exactly the same way. Tools, macros, D2. Next one, tools, macros, D2. You can see how this is significantly faster. So if you would please click on one of the tabs after you sorted it from the two tabs and choose some formatting, any formatting that you want. And then go to the other sheets and apply, go to the tools menu, macros, and find your macro and run it again. Is this working? We're able to do the two tabs because that part's super fun. The downside to two tabs is definitely the lack of formatting. Okay. All right, so now what I'm going to do is on the two tabs, I'm going to go to the main menu and I'm going to choose reset, because what happens with two tabs is, let's say, you know, Kim, Alice, Sherry, they all go to the bathroom, but what about Larry? So what I have here is I have Larry now starts going to the bathroom. Alice keeps going to the bathroom. Kim went one more time. So now adding more data will update the tabs, but it won't create a new tab. So I'm going to close down my two tabs menu, and I'm going to go to the add-ons, and I'm going to do two tabs and show the sidebar. I'm going to sort it by name again. So the reason I needed to do that was because I have had a new person use the bathroom and had not used it before, and I didn't have a Larry tab. Now I have a Larry tab where I didn't have one before. So the problem is none of my tabs have the formatting, because I had to, when I reset it, it deleted all of the tabs. Well, if it deletes the tabs, it deletes my formatting. But it's going to be in here and go under macros. Now, this macro is tied to this spreadsheet. So if I open it later, this macro will still be there. Now you'll notice that the import option is grayed out, and I'm not really sure why that is. I have a guess. You know what, I'm going to try something, because Kim and I were talking about this before, and I'm like, that's weird. It should let you. Okay, so this is a little advanced. Don't pay attention to me. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. I'm going to go to manage the macros. And when I manage the macros, that's where I can rename them, or I can give them a keyboard shortcut. But I'm going to edit the script. So I know if I do these three dots, I can choose edit script. So that's where you get into the coding. if you want to modify the coding. Do you see this here at the top where the code automatically says only the current document? I'm going to delete that. Save. Okay, cancel. I'm going to do tools, macros. Let me get a new spreadsheet. I'm going to see if I can, come on. I hit the button on accident. Waiting for the hotel internet to load, always a fun time. And I go to add-on, or excuse me, I go to tools, and I go to macros. Why won't it let me import a macro? Tools, macros. All right, well, there goes that theory. It has an import option. I've imported them before, and for some reason that doesn't work anymore. So much for that there. I was just now thinking, you know, when I go in and I view the code for the macro, which I think is fascinating to look at, you'll see that the code for D2, excuse me, on delete 1, that it says that's going to set the value Alice. I'm going to change it to Chupacabra. I've edited that in the code. So now when I go to tools, macros, and I do the delete macro, it's making me reauthorize it. It should put the word Chupacabra in there instead of the word Alice. Yes, you see that? So when I edited in the code said Alice. I changed the code to say Chupacabra, and it did stick it in there. Okay, so what's nice is that when you come back, you run the 2 tabs, or you do something where you're in there again, go to the macros, run the macro again, it will redo that formatting. So I'm going to make a Google form. I'm going to turn off email address just because I don't need your email address. The question is going to be favorite color, and then say something long, and I'm going to put, yes, no, I want it to be paragraph, and my response validation says the length has to be a minimum of 200 characters or you cannot submit it. And then I'm going to ask, what grade do you want? And I ask this because I do this each week with my students. I have them fill out a Google form to tell me what grade should I put in Power School, and so they submit that way. So if you would please fill that out. And I'm going to Control-A select all, Control-C copy, Control-V. I'm going to paste it. It's going to tell me that's too much. Or it says it has to be at least 200, so I will submit that. I'm going to submit another color, and my favorite answer is blue, and something very long. I think it'll say it's not long enough. I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay. And when I come back here and I go to the spreadsheet, you'll see that I have some formatting that I might want to do. So I'm looking at the spreadsheet from my Google form. So I made a Google form. I clicked on the spreadsheet icon on the responses tab. And then on the spreadsheet, I'm going to use tools, macros. I'm going to record a macro. And what I want to do is I want to make this column a little smaller, but I'm getting a little old, so I'm going to make the font bigger so I can read it. I'm going to Wordwrap. I'm going to set Wordwrap on this column, and I'm going to make it wider. On this column, I want it to be centered vertically, because did you see it was like sitting in the bottom corner there? And I want it to have a thicker font, and I want it to be centered, and I want it to be like really big, and I do not want D1 to be really big. Okay, I got all my formatting. Click Save. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my form. I'm going to fill it out again. It's been really long. This is super long and very long and long. My name. And when I submit that, what you'll notice is that I don't have any of the formatting on that. It's not word wrapped, it's not a different font, and it's not chunky. So the problem is that even though I applied it to the entire column B or in the entire column D, that doesn't stick when you insert a new, what inserting a form does, inserts a new row. So that's the problem, is that it inserts a new row. So what you want to do is just go up to the Tools menu, go to Macros, and use that macro when you open up your Google form. You'll have to authorize it first time. I'm doing right now. Oops, let me do it again. When it authorizes it and then doesn't actually do it, so you have to just do it a second time. So what happens is when I open up my Google form, the first thing I do is I go to my macro and I set all the formatting from the last time I opened up my Google form, if this is a form that I come back to frequently. Questions? Okay. All right, so here is the last thing I'm going to show you, is that what you can do then is you can go to Tools, Macros, Manage Macros. Can you do that right now, please? Tools, Macros, Manage Macros. And I want you to not freak out. Don't freak out. You go to Manage Macros. And then on your macro, you're going to go to the 3 dots and you're going to choose Edit Script. This is going to be scary, my friends. This is going to be scary, but don't look. Just don't look. It's going to open up the code. You don't have to look at the code. Don't look at it. What you want to do instead is go to the Edit and choose Current Project Triggers. Edit, Current Project Triggers. And when you choose Current Project Triggers, you can choose Add Trigger. And then when it says choose which function to run, if you have more than one macro, you're going to choose your macro. In this particular case, I only have one macro, but if you had multiple macros, you'd want to make sure you choose the right one from the drop-down list. Where it says head, it actually doesn't have any other options. But where it says select event source, you'll see that you can do it from the spreadsheet, time-driven, or from calendar. So if you wanted to just automatically run your macro every hour, so it's going to word wrap and all that every hour, you could do that every day, every month. You can choose how often you want it to update. I'm going to leave it from the spreadsheet. And I'm going to say for my event type, I want the macro to run when I open the spreadsheet, maybe. Do you remember I told you that I have the students fill out a form every week where they tell me, according to the rubric, the class rubric, what grade should I put in PowerSchool? So they self-evaluate every week. So then when I open up the spreadsheet, you know, I make the font bigger and I center it as to what grade that they wanted. Well, I don't want to, if I'm going to run the macro every time I open the spreadsheet, then I can just set a trigger that when I open the spreadsheet, it's going to run my macros. So if anybody's made any edits or changes, as soon as I open it, the macro is going to run and the formatting or whatever I told it to do is going to happen. You probably do not want to have a trigger run on edit. Every time you edit a cell, the macro will run. There are some reasons to want that, but not very many. But the one I'm going to choose is on form submit. So because the spreadsheet I have is linked to a Google form, it gives me the option to have on form submit. So it's going to run it's going to run my macro when someone submits the form. So remember a few seconds ago, I showed you that I submitted the Google form and the font was not formatted. It was just plain. So I'm going to do on form submit, save. It's going to make me authorize it. Okay, and then that's all set. So let me fill out this form again. So my favorite color is blue. Long time. And submit. Now when I go look over here at the spreadsheet, the last time it was not formatted. And now when I see this long time, I can see it's formatted. I can see that the A is now bold and centered and all those things that I wanted. I'll do it again, or this time I'll submit a grade of a B. Chartreuse. And submit a B. So even before I could get over to the tab, I clicked over on that tab pretty quickly. It had already run the macro when I submitted the form. So that was pretty cool. So let me review that again. I made a Google form. I clicked on the responses tab, the spreadsheet icon, because macros are in spreadsheets. I went to the tools menu and I went to macros and I managed my macros so I could use the 3 dots to edit the script. And then I don't look, 3 dots, edit the script, don't look, don't look, don't look. And you just want to edit the current project triggers. Edit the current project triggers. You add a trigger. You choose your macro. You probably want it from Spreadsheet, but there's a lot of good reasons to just have it run at once a week, whatever you want. And instead of on open, I'm going to have it do on form submit. Now, every time someone submits the form, it's going to run my macro. Okay, is there anything I can answer for you? I'm not sure why the import is not working. I thought it just had an epiphany that maybe it was that, but no.
Is there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, is there an advantage over running it from open or when open or versus when the form is submitted?
Yeah, definitely there's an advantage. If it is form data, then probably you want form submit. But if you are just needing it infrequently, like you don't necessarily need the macro to run, and it's a unique user, so when the secretary looks at it, she needs it formatted. You don't really care if it's formatted. So she might do an on open and not in that particular case. I would say if it's connected to a Google form, probably on form submit is what you want. I have my one set on open, the one that I do each week with my students, because it doesn't matter to me when it word wraps it because I'm the only one who's going to look at it. So if it does it each time or if it does it all at once, so what? But if I'm using a spreadsheet that's not tied to a form, you can still do the macros and the triggers. The triggers have nothing to do with the fact that you have a form. You will just, if you have a form, you'll have the option to do form submit. If there's no form, the option won't be there. You'll only have on open and on edit.
Got it.
As your options.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So what I do, Kimberly, since I can't import, the import's grayed out, is I go and I manage my macros and I edit the script, you know, the 3 dots, I edit the script and I just copy the function. Record any macro in the other spreadsheet that you have that you want to run the same macro on. Just record any macro, like just doing nothing. It makes a column wider or something just to get it started. Macros are only in Google Sheets, only Google Sheets. So then when I manage the macros and I edit the script, I just delete the innards, or just make sure it has the same name really, right? Is I just I copy paste the code from the other spreadsheet into that one. So it's definitely a little bit more advanced, but if it's not scary to you to look at the script for the macro, you can copy from one spreadsheet to the other, just copy paste, and your macro will work. In fact, I code Google Apps Script, and I often will just record a macro for whatever it is that I want to do, and I go in and I grab the code from the macro, and then I copy and paste into the code I'm actually doing, do a few tweaks and modifications, but that saves me a ton of time getting my code to format and do things to my spreadsheet.
I see.
It will also, I only showed you it recording formatting, but actually it'll record anything. So if I were to type a formula, if I type words, it'll record all of those as well.
Okay.
So Sherry, and yes, the macro is only in that one spreadsheet. So unless you file make a copy of the spreadsheet, the macro would only be in that sheet unless you do like I suggested and go into the script editor and grab the code, copy paste the code into another spreadsheet.
Okay.
Okay. If you're willing to learn just a tiny bit of app script, you will like go crazy with the macros. But if you don't want to do that, certainly not required. You can get a heck of a lot done just with using the regular macro functions and never look at the code. But the triggers are pretty cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.